Hey everyone, Tristan Pugh from Disciples here, and this past weekend I got 4th place at the YCS Birmingham Ultimate Time Wizard, playing fishborg frogs. I feel very confident that it's one of the best decks in Edison at the moment. It's definitely going to change the way people build their decks, with there being a very dangerous, very competent combo deck now. I don't think it's as hard as a lot of people say it is. Once you know the combos, it gets a lot easier. You just have to sort of count how many cards you have to know what you can do. I think the side deck gets a lot harder. Post-side games get a lot more tricky, but game one, it just feels like the most unfair deck you can play. And that's how I felt the whole tournament, really. Let's get into it. So I played 3 fishborg, obviously 3 substitute, 3 swap frog, 3 dupe frog. I think it's just necessary for consistency, really. I've seen a couple of people play 2. You can go down to 2 post-side, really. But just getting the dupe block and then getting another dupe block and then getting another dupe block after that is too much for a lot of decks to deal with. 3 Des Frog 2, it's just necessary for a lot of the OTK combos. The combo that does exactly 8k needs 3 Des Frog. Yeah, I think it's just necessary. It's also just big. It's 1900, you know. Then for the rest of the frogs, I played 1 Tree-born frog. I didn't really miss a second one. It came up once where someone Goyo Guardian took my Tree-born frog, so I had to attack over it to get it back rather than just send a second one. That was kind of frustrating, but I didn't feel like I really needed a second one. Then I played 1 flip-flop frog, obviously. The very, very good frog. When you don't see fishborg, it can be kind of hard to like out monsters, but flip frog just makes it very easy. Yeah, very good frog. And then I played 1 Beals frog. I know the Alistair list doesn't play it. It's sort of the popular, the OG fishborg OTK deck. But I really like Beals frog. It made a lot of the lines a lot easier. It made ending games a lot easier. Like a Colossal Armory Arm only costs 5 cards when you play Beals as opposed to 6. So it just makes every Armory Arm combo a lot more efficient. Being able to OTK through Gauze for only 8 cards as opposed to 10 makes it feel a lot more realistic. Yeah, I really like Beals frog. Also being 1200 attack is kind of relevant because you can crash with Fossil Diner. That did come up. Yeah, I don't regret playing Beals frog. And then for the other monsters, I played 2 Dandelion. Dandelion is just crazy. It counts as 3 cards when it's in your hand, which is like absurd. Anytime I have like Sub, Fishborg, and Dandelion, I feel like it's like very difficult to lose. 1 Gauze. The Italian list obviously didn't play Gauze either, but I do like it. It's kind of safe when you're just going swap frogs and Tree-born pass. It's nice to just have a Gauze as backup. Doesn't get hit by deck dev either, which is relevant. Yeah, it's just a big body. It's also a +1 as soon as you summon it. If you go substitute, you've got 2 monsters now instead of just 1 card in hand, which is good. And then for the last monster, I played 1 Elemental Hero Bulbman to go with the Future Fusion, obviously. A lot of people play Ocean over Bulbman with the argument that Ocean can attack over Fossil Diner, but I just think that argument is so fake because it requires your opponent to be summoning Fossil Diner game 1. Because if your opponent is playing a deck that can side into Fossil Diner, you're going to side out this package anyway because it's no good against Fossil Diner. And Bulbman can at least be an extender in some situations where Ocean is just a 1500 vanilla. Yeah, I don't regret playing Bulbman. Bulbman is definitely the correct choice over Ocean in my opinion. And then the rest of the spells, you played Foolish, 1 for 1, obviously, Brain Control, Broken Card, Heavy Storm, Trunade. I didn't play MST, I cut it for the side deck, same with Unifrog really. I didn't expect a lot of oppression in the main decks. I didn't think people would catch on that quick. I think I was right. Yeah, but these 2 are obviously just too broken. Then for the rest of the spells, play 3 Moray for consistency, putting back the bad frogs, hopefully draw the good ones. And then for the +1s that are very important, Salvage, Avarice, and then Reckless Greed. Yeah, just all mandatory. Post-side, Reckless and Moray can kind of come out because they're not very good against deck dev. But Salvage is just absurd, being able to get Substitute back from Grave. Very, very good. And then we'll go to the extra deck. So I played the Hero Fusions. It does come up, the Gaia can obviously send Dandelion and Ab-Zero can let you send Substone or Fishborg. It came up a couple of times where you can reveal both of them in one turn. If you go like Salvage, add back the Bubble Man, and then Mori, return it, or more commonly, you just go Avarice, put back the Bubble Man. And then you can go Brio, bounce your Future Fusion, activate the Future Fusion again to send the Bubble Man, and then you usually start with a Water, so then you want to send the Dandelion for a +1. There was a game in testing where we bounced back Future Fusion multiple times. That was kind of absurd. Then Mistworm, which came up a lot. A big reason why Beals is quite good, because the Brionac would cost 2 cards, and then for it to bounce 3 cards, you'd have to discard 3, obviously, so then it's costing you 5 cards. Whereas the Mistworm only costs 3 cards, a Desfrog, a Beals, and a Fishborg, and it still bounces 3. 2500 attack is also important. Well, not specifically 25, but it's at least 23, so it's not any worse than Brionac. So a lot of the time it's more efficient to go into Mistworm than it is to Brionac. Brionac is better to, like, if they've only got 1 back row, then it's easy to summon Brionac and then not use priority, so they can bottomless it, and then you just carry on playing from there without losing any card advantage. Stardust Dragon is important for the really big end board that you can make with like Dupe, Flip Flock, and Stardust. It's very, very difficult for any deck to beat that. 2 Colossal Fighters. 2 is definitely necessary. You need the second one to OTK through Necro Gardener sometimes. Sometimes you just want to crash and then they out it, and then you have a second one to be able to kill to OTK them. It came up in testing once where my opponent had a Fulmhelm Knight, and I wanted to make sure I OTK'd him through Gauze, Fader, that sort of stuff. So I made 2 Colossal Fighters, 2 Armory Arms, and yeah, it was. I'm sure he wasn't expecting that. Black Rose Dragon. There are some lines where you can do a Black Rose before going to Substitute. That's quite good. But obviously, Black Rose is just a very good card. You can also use the secret effect of Black Rose Dragon. Not so secret, I guess. You can banish Dandelion from grave, or any plant, obviously, but in this deck it's Dandelion, to switch one of their defense position monsters to attack, which then means you can start equipping Armory Arms to it to be able to OTK through any sort of battle hand trap they could have. Very, very underrated effect. Very, very good. It's also important in like Frog mirrors. You can switch their Duke Frog to attack if they have a substitute on field, and then it can't be destroyed by battle. So you just get to attack into it basically for free, almost like attacking directly. Then the level 6s, which you kind of go into the most, is Urquizus. Very important for Amaryllis specifically, because Urquizus equipped with 2 Armory Arms attacking over on Amaryllis's game. It did actually come up for me this tournament as well. My opponent had 2 Cyber Valleys, but he had an Amaryllis in defense, and so his life was low enough that I could equip 1 Armory Arm to the Urquizus and attack over the Amaryllis for game. Realistically, it didn't matter because I could have gone Brionac, bounce the 2 Cyber Valleys, but the Urquizus was a lot cooler. And then Goya Guardian, obviously very good. I wasn't fortunate enough to win one, but then we have the Brionac as well, and the Gaia Knight. I didn't actually make Gaia Knight this tournament, but it does come up for some OTK lines. The damage, the attack is very important. If they have like a Duke Frog in attack position, and then you can bounce their other Duke Frog with a Brionac, you need to make all 3 level 6s to get enough damage with a Swap Frog to be able to OTK them through their attack position Duke Frog, because you leave the substitute on field so it can't die by battle. Very, very funny combo. Maybe could be cut. Like I said, I never made it, but it's definitely relevant. And then level 5s, Catasta, Android. I didn't make either of these either, but they've obviously got their purposes. Catasta's a little bit more obvious than Android. Android is important for damage thresholds. If you've only got access to like 2 Des Frogs or only 1 Des Frog, then you need to be able to make damage. And Android is obviously quite a big level 5 synchro that you can make with 2s and a Fishborg. And then 2 Armory Arm. The third did actually come up for me this tournament. It was a game where my life points was too low to be able to do Colossal Armory, whereas if I could go equip 3 Armory Arms to my own monster, I could attack over his Caius to do enough damage per game. So in future, I would definitely consider playing a 3rd Armory Arm, maybe over Android or a Gaia Knight. Not entirely sure yet, but everything else was very good. And then the side deck, it's kind of split up into like 3 sections almost. One to answer Spell and Trap Floodgates, another to answer Monster Floodgates, and then something for the mirror. I did expect the mirror to be somewhat popular. There's obviously going to be at least 3 FORG players, Alistair, Adam and Mitch. They're like the OGs. Big shout out to them. I wouldn't be playing it if they weren't playing it. But yeah, so I went with Trapstun. Very generic, can sort of beat obviously all the Trap Floodgates, Massacre Restrict, Royal Oppression, and the blowouts like deck dev. So it's a kind of a safe thing to set. It can hit multiple back row. And MST that I chose not to main, and then a twister basically as a second copy of MST. You only really need to hit the floodgates. You don't really care about the fair back row. The only way they're beating you is usually by flipping the floodgate, which is why I kind of regret siding my body. I was really unsure about which one of these would be better. After the tournament, I feel like Twister might have been better than my body. My body can obviously hit stuff like Torrential, Mirror Force, Icarus, but you tend to be able to play through those back row anyway. It's the floodgates that really get you. One of my friends had a game where he had a my body in hand and his opponent flipped oppression, but he flipped the oppression on a fishborg blast on a swat frog effect to special summon itself, so he couldn't my body it, whereas if it was a twister, the game was ended on the spot. So in future I definitely consider swapping this for another twister. Trap Eater is another option, but it doesn't. It means you have to lose the cards to the oppression before being able to eat it with the Trap Eater. So the twister might still be better in that aspect. And then the Unifrog that I chose not to main deck. Obviously just very good in like grindy matchups, which you're more likely to get into post side. And then 2 Breaker as well. Breaker is a very, very good option. Like the Italian list, where this side deck is kind of inspired from, didn't play Breaker. I understand why they wanted to go fast, I suppose, and Breaker is a little bit slow because you've got to commit your normal summon. But it's such a good answer to the floodgates, because not only is it a spell trap floodgate out, but it also beats over Fossil Diner. And I feel like that utility was good enough for me to play it. And then for the other monster floodgates, Offerings to the Doomed was very, very good for me. The reason it's offerings over something like Lightning Vortex or Smashing Ground or Soul Shaker is just because it's a quick play spell. You can use it in draw phase on a Fossil Diner, and then your standby phase, your Treeborn can still come back. I did that multiple times in the tournament, and the game just ended from there. It's also a fine disrupt. It could be Book of Moon, it could be Forbidden Chalice, but I value just getting the monster off the field straight away, rather than Book of Mooning it and then having to Brionac it. Maybe you don't have enough cards to do that. Whereas Offerings is just straight 1-for-1 when the game is ending that turn anyway. And then 1 Mirror Force, 1 Torrential. Obviously just very generic, powerful back row. Out stuff like Vanity's Fiend, Fossil Diner, Christia, that sort of stuff. And then I decided to respect the mirror, so I played 3 DD Crow. I never actually got to resolve it. The only game where I drew it, I think it was game 2 against Alistair in top 4. And that was a game where I was comboing off, so it didn't really matter. I just discarded it for Fishborg. In theory, it felt like my deck was a little bit more favoured in the mirror, maybe, just because I had the DD Crows and I didn't think that they would. But it didn't turn out like that, which is fine. You know, big respect to Alistair for winning the tournament. Obviously, he brought the deck to light. I think the deck is insane. I don't think there's a lot of things that people can do to beat it. Obviously, there are things that they can side DD Crow, they can go back to maining Oppression, they can maybe play more blowouts, but engine to engine, I feel like this deck is just insane. Definitely feels like Edison endgame, but I'm sure people will find a way to innovate and come back from it. I do really enjoy this format. I hope that this deck isn't the reason that the format goes to ruins, but yeah, it was a very enjoyable weekend. It's a great tournament, 8 rounds of Swiss. Went X1, won top 8 against Frog Hero, top 4s against Alistair, which is unfortunate. We had there were 3 Forgs in top 8 as well. It was funny, before top 8 started, people were saying that there was 2. I don't think they realised that I was also playing Forgs, which was nice that people didn't know. So it was cool to see that the most represented deck in Top Cut was Forgs. Definitely shows that the deck it's not just a fluke, it's not just a deck that only some people can play. I think anybody can pick up this deck and play it, as long as you learn the lines, get the spreadsheet, count your cards. It's it's a very, very good deck. Thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully more tops to come. Really hope I get to go to UK Nationals this year. Maybe get a win this time. Maybe at least get an oversized or a giant card. We'll see. Thank you very much. Goodbye.